Yo, 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 what's going on, y'all? Welcome back in another episode of the NFL Best to Wear Jersey Countdown. That's a long line, long name just to say, hey, we're counting down jerseys. 30 days to NFL kickoff, now 28. So we're at day 28. That's all it is. That was a long, trying to be, fancy name, whatever it is. Um, so if you're ready, I'm ready. This one's a loaded number. Jersey number 28 is loaded. Stars all over the place. So let's get into it. All right. Like I said, this is a loaded jersey number, y'all. Primarily running backs are at the top of the list here. But one of the all-time guys, like all-time, regardless of position, just all-time top 100 NFL players, right? Darrell Green sits here with number 28. And I started watching NFL football around 90, 89, 90, 91-ish, right? And when I really started recognizing what was happening, and I would watch the Redskins, and I started watching, the Redskins were like, when they went to the Super Bowl with like Mark Rippon and Darrell Green was on that team. And he played a long time before then, and he played a long time after then. But this dude was a flat-out stud, one of the fastest dudes ever in the league. Supposedly, he claims to have run a 4.0940, which is ridiculous, all right? But he is a four-time winner of the NFL Fastest Man. For those who aren't familiar, they used to have this NFL Fastest Man in the offseason competition. They also used to have, like, the quarterback competition in the offseason in the NFL. They don't do that anymore. I don't know if dudes was getting their feelings hurt, but now, or dudes are just scared of injuries now, with all the money they're making. But he won that 4 times. This dude he was ridiculous, all right? Played 20 years, pretty much an Iron Man. He played 12-plus games, all but 2 years, and he's small like me. He was like 5'11", 180 or something like that. How do you do that? 54 career picks, 6 touchdowns. You guys probably seen his most famous highlight, or several of his most famous highlights, which is him chasing down running backs and receivers who are supposed to be gone, right? Like when you're watching the highlights, like you're like, oh, this guy's gone, ain't nobody catching him. And out of nowhere, Darrell Green has come into the picture and caught up and made the tackle and saved the touchdown. Again, most famous for his chase down. I think the most famous one was with Tony Dorsett on Monday night. I think that was his first Monday night game. And he chased down Tony Dorsett. 7-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, which is ridiculous. 2-time Super Bowl champ, again, with the Redskins. Hall of Famer, top 100 player. So much more you can say about this guy, except that he was a great cornerback, lockdown, fast. I mean, he was that guy, man. Again, played 20 years with the Redskins. So shout out to Darrell Green, one of the very best number 28s, regardless of position. Moving on, one of my guys. Grew up watching him while he was in college at Florida State, and then I went to Florida State, and, so I got to show love to my guy, Warrick Dunn. Short, miniature. Most people would recognize him as, the other half of the duo with Mike Allstott. They had the Thunder and Lightning thing going, and he was quick, fast, quick twitch. But really, Warrick Dunn, for his size, packed a lot of punch. He could pretty much do it all. Played 12 years, pretty durable guy. Played with Tampa Bay for the most part, won a Super Bowl with them, as well as a few years with Atlanta Falcons. 10,000, close to 11,000 really rushing yards, 15,000 total yards from scrimmage, 54 career touchdowns, 1997 Offensive Rookie of the Year. He had 5 1,000-yard seasons, 3 Pro Bowls. His best year was in 2005, where he registered 1,416 yards. And again, dude was durable. He played in 12 games in all but 1 year. For a guy his size, if you remember how short he was stout though. But overall, a good guy. Warrick Dunn represented that number 28 really well. Of course, as a Seminole, I gotta have him on there. I think he's probably, definitely a fringe Hall of Famer. And depending on how you look at it, he has better stats than some cats in the Hall of Fame. But it is what it is. Shout out to my man, Warrick Dunn. Next on the list is a guy who is really understated, underestimated, undervalued. His production is like, he was so consistent that I feel like he didn't get the credit he deserves. Like, he wasn't flashy, 90-yard dashes to the end zone, burst of speed this and there. Like, he was just consistent and piled up a ton of yards and productive. I'm talking about Curtis Martin. And I hated his guts because as a Dolphins player, he played with the Patriots first and then the Jets. And I used to remember him just killing out the clock. You can't stop this guy from getting his 4 or 5 yards and milking the clock away. And he was just ridiculous. I hated this guy, but you can't deny his production. 11 total years in the league, 5-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, 1995 Offensive Rookie of the Year, almost 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns that year rushing. He had 1,000 yards his first 10 years in the league. And then the year after that streak broke, he essentially retired, right, when he didn't get 1K. 14,000 total rushing yards, 3,300 receiving yards, 100 TDs. Like I said, Curtis Martin, man, just sound, all-around, productive, not flashy, Hall of Famer dude. He just went about his business, wasn't loud, talking trash, at least from what I could see, right? And he just went to work and handled his business. And oftentimes, handle his business means, causing the Dolphins to take a L. So shout out to Curtis Martin, one of the great number 58s ever. Following him is another guy who a lot of folks would put as like the top running back of his generation. And maybe I would too. And that's Adrian Peterson, also known as All Day, AP. One of the nicknames, I didn't know this, they have for him is Purple Jesus. And why not? Sometimes this man acted like he was God on the football field as a running back. 15 years, but really his first 8 seasons in Minnesota was it. I know he first 1K in his first 4 years, 1,000 in his first 4 years, and then he got hurt with the ACL injury. And then this dude comes back 8 months later and rushes for 2,000 yards. That's when people started criticizing other guys, other athletes, like Derrick Rose got criticized for not coming back sooner from his ACL injury because people were like, well, if Adrian Peterson could do it, why can't you do it? That's because the man's a robot, all right? But he was strong, he was fast, elusive, he could run through you, around you, whatever you needed to do. If you wanted to get your skull crushed in, he could do it with a stiff arm. If you wanted him to run around you, he could do it. Like, hardly ever got chased down. Adrian Peterson was just a freak athlete. He was like that. Again, he comes back from that ACL, rushes for 2,000 yards, and then wins the MVP that year. 7-time Pro Bowler, 4 times All-Pro. To me, whenever he just retired, I guess. But whenever his time is up, immediate Pro Bowler, no doubt about it. His impact, you can't talk about his generation without mentioning Adrian Peterson. And that's like one of my, mottos for determining who's a Hall of Famer. Like, can you talk about the generation they played in without mentioning this cat? No doubt about it. Purple Jesus, AD, AP, whatever you want to call him, Adrian Peterson, number 28. He was like that. Almost 15,000 yards rushing, 2,400 receiving. Not much else you could say, man. Like, this guy's stiff arm alone should be in the Hall of Fame. Next cat, number 28, Chris Johnson, Tennessee Titans for the most part. 10 years. Also played with the Jets in Arizona, but you know him as a Titan. This cat was one of the fastest dudes ever. Actually, he kept the fastest time in the combine for a long time until I think it was broken by Justin Ross. Just flat out, I don't know. I've seen anyone with the start-stop speed like this dude. Like, usually they say as a running back, get them to stop their feet, and this guy will stop his feet, 2 feet, and then boom, he's gone. Take off, like truly lightning. Fastest acceleration I think I've ever seen from a running back. 6 1,000-yard seasons to start his career. His second year in the league, this guy runs for 2,000 yards. That's where he gets his nickname, CJ2K. 2008 Offensive Player of the Year. 9,600 total rushing yards, 2,200 receiving yards, 64 TDs. Career kind of got short, started getting hurt and things like that. But, man, he was on his way to the Hall of Fame, no doubt. 3 times Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro. But we remember Chris Johnson. Shout out to Chris Johnson also being from Orlando, Florida. Proud son of Orlando, Florida. But no doubt, I told you this class is loaded, man. This jersey's number is loaded, all right? Another just great baller in the number 28 jersey. Next on the list, two guys, really. And this is where playing in a small market in the NFL can hurt dudes, all right? First is Fred Taylor. I think Fred Taylor should be in the Hall of Fame. I remember watching this cat, especially Dan Marino's last playoff game with the Dolphins. Fred Taylor absolutely put on a show against the Miami Dolphins. Made the defense look ridiculous. But he played 11 years with Jacksonville, small market, not great teams, and then a couple years with New England. For a bigger dude, he was fast, he was quick. I remember watching him at UF, and then in the pros, this guy was just nasty. Like, his lateral movement, real shifty. 7 1,000-yard years. You know, people say he was injury-prone, but a lot of injury-prone guys are in the Hall of Fame. His best year was in 2002 with 1,500 rushing yards, 11,000 yards total, 2,300 receiving, 74 touchdowns. He made one Pro Bowl. I don't know how or why. Injuries did derail his career, but again, he still was super productive. Better stats, like I said, than some Hall of Famers, even with those injuries. So I think he should be there. So, but shout out to Freddie T, man. I just remember watching his highlights, man. He's just quick, fast. Like, you couldn't catch this dude. He was just that guy. He was nice. So shout out to Fred Taylor, another great number 28. Same kind of boat situation is Corey Dillon. Now, Corey Dillon ended up winning a Super Bowl with later on in his career with the Patriots. But before that, he played several years with the Bengals, and Bengals teams weren't great. They weren't on everybody's radar. So he kind of got overlooked. But he also has 11,000 yards total rushing in his career, 82 touchdowns for Corey Dillon. He had the one monster game, or several monster games, but his most monstrous game was 287 yards, which at that time was an NFL record. He had 7 1,000-yard seasons. First 6 years, he had 1K. His best year came as a Patriot, actually, where it was in his 8th year where he had 1,600 rushing yards. 4-time Pro Bowler. Again, he won a championship. He gets overlooked. Him and Fred Taylor get overlooked, but definitely a great running back with that number 28. He was a bigger dude, but again, once he got going, look out, because you didn't want to tackle him, and you probably weren't catching this cat either. So shout out to Corey Dillon for being a great number 28. Having said all that, number 28 is at the top of that list. The top of the top is Marshall Faulk. And I'm going to say this. Is Marshall Faulk the greatest running back ever? Like, is Marshall Faulk the GOAT running back? And listen, I'm a Barry Sanders fan. I grew up on Barry Sanders and Emmett, and to me, Barry Sanders is like the best running back ever. He's been my GOAT forever. I know Emmett has, the most yards rushing, and again, that's where stats, don't tell the whole story. But now I'm starting to wonder, is Marshall Faulk the top guy? Seriously, 12 years. Split between Indianapolis and St. Louis. Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1994. Ends up getting shipped from Indianapolis to the St. Louis Rams. Becomes part of the greatest show on turf. 3-time Offensive Player of the Year. MVP in that crazy 2000 MVP season. He had 253 carries, 1,359 yards. Not bad. And then you add on 18 touchdowns. And then you add on 81 receptions, 830 receiving yards, and 8 additional touchdowns. Like, those receiving yardage, like, that's who else is doing? That's the receiver type stuff. There's a lot of receivers, even in today's Pass Happy League. There's a lot of receivers who can't put up those numbers. And this cat put up those numbers as a running back. So he put up 1,359 yards as a running back, and then came around behind it as a receiver with 830 yards, 81 receptions. So most people, right, whether it's in sports or in life, if you're holding down 2 jobs, you're probably like great in one or not really good in the other, or you're like meh in both. This guy was great at both jobs. So tell me, Is Marshall Faulk the best running back ever? Like, is he the GOAT running back? Because ain't no other running backs doing it like that. They could go with you like either way you want it. Like, he's just a mismatch no matter what. Receiver, running, whatever you like, however you want it, he can give it to you. He got the wiggle, he got the speed. I don't know, man. Listen, I love Barry Sanders, like I said. He's my GOAT. But when I looked at Marshall Faulk's stats and what he did, like, Barry wasn't a receiver like that. I don't know what to say, man. Marshall Faulk was that guy. And I think we watched him play, and we overlooked the fact that Marshall Faulk was probably the greatest running back of our time, of all time. We may have overlooked that because we got caught up in greatest show on turf with Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt and Kurt Warner, but he was the engine. And he balled. And he balled a lot. And he ran. And he caught passes. Like, there was nothing he couldn't do on the football field. So, listen, I love these debates. Listen, and Barry Sanders is my guy. Some people love Emmett. Walter Payton is for some. Listen, if somebody came and said Marshall Faulk is the greatest running back ever, I might not be able to argue with him because he did things other dudes simply couldn't do. Roger Craig did have a 1,000 season. He did. But he wasn't like this guy consistently. Like, go look at Marshall Faulk's stats. Total career, 12K rushing yards, 6,900 receiving yards. 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. I don't know. But shout out to Marshall. Shout out to Marshall. He was that dude. He is, to me, the greatest cat to wear number 28 in the NFL and maybe the GOAT running back. So that's the list, y'all, of the greatest 28s. There's other cats who were good that wore 28. Darren Woodson with the Cowboys wore 28, won 3 Super Bowls with them. Jonathan Taylor, funny enough, drafted by the Colts, and they're about to fumble that bag. If only they had better coaching and management. But Jonathan Taylor wears number 28. He's a dual threat running back. We know he can run and he can catch. This cat, they could use him like Marshall Faulk. Not everyone's smart enough to see talent like that. Maybe. I don't know. But Jonathan Taylor, if he keeps it up, he'll be on this list as well as one of the great 28s ever. But shout out to this list, man. This I had fun looking this one up. Like, I don't know if there's going to be another number that tops number 28, man. When I was looking, I was like, damn, everybody 28? These guys are studs. Like Chris Johnson and Curtis Martin and Warwick Dunn and Darrell Green and AP, like Freddie T and Corey Dillon and Marshall. Yeah, that was fun putting that together. So shout out to all these guys, man. So I'm gonna leave it there. If you enjoyed this episode, once again, I ask you to subscribe. Once again, like, share, comment. Let me know who is your favorite 28 or who's the best 28 in your mind. And do you think Marshall Faulk is the GOAT 28? I don't know. Let me know. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you next time with number 27, Mike Philman. Peace.